Okay, and then I will start to share my screen too. Great. Guys, I saw that someone asked me to share the slides. I forgot to do that on this weekend, but today I will try to upload all the slides, okay? So you also can check not only the recordings, but also the slides that I use it. And of course, you can be free to check them how many times you need that, you think that's needed, okay? So let's start with the fifth class. I read open it. It's this one. Great. Let's just play. Great. So, guys, today we will start with the WRB.
Professor, not seeing the screen.
You cannot see the screen? No.
Yeah.
Guys, can you see the screen? The others?
Yes, I can. Maybe you need to log out and log in again so that you can
Yeah.
see.
Okay.
Yes, Prof, I can see the screen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's just wait until democracy he returns, okay? Just 1 second. Sometimes I have this technology problems. Democracy, can you let me know if your red can see my screen?
Yeah, okay.
Perfect, perfect. Great, great. Good to know.
Professor,
Thank you very
I
much.
write some message for you in the morning. Have you seen?
Okay, okay. I read and replied you. Okay, I read replied you. But anyway, we can talk about this later. Thank you, thank you.
Okay.
So guys, today we will start to talk about the WRB system, that it's the World Reference Base for Soil Resources. Okay, this system, it's quite interesting because it's produced by the International Union of Soil Sciences. And because of this international union, this specific system has contributions, received contributions from different kind of researchers from different countries, different continents, and from different backgrounds and experiences. And because of this system, at least in my opinion, it's one of the best systems that we have. Okay, I think that someone raised it. No, okay, just a comment, no problem. So this system, it's quite important, it's quite good because it fits very well to the majority of conditions that we can see around the world, and also has a very general and broad definition of soil. So you can use it for basically everywhere. All the areas around the world can be classified according to this specific system. And of course, they can be very well classified because it receives a lot of contributions from local researchers. So we have, of course, some decisions that need to be made considering the differences of backgrounds and experiences, considering the majority of researchers. But let's say that's a quite open system. It's a system that we can send contributions, and it, in the majority of cases, these contributions are very well considered and change or improve the system. We are now in the fourth edition that was published in 2022, and this edition is quite good. I believe that we will receive a new edition in the next, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 years, okay? But means that we, of course, we need to improve some topics, especially about the soil description. We think that some topics in the WRB needs, they need they need to be improved, but in general, they are very, very, very good, okay? Especially for soil classification. And this system, it's also quite interesting. We will see this in the next classes, but it's something that's also quite interesting because we don't have a huge hierarchy in the system. We don't have orders, sub-orders, groups or subgroups or families or series. We just have the reference soil group. And this reference soil group are basically RSG. It's what we consider to classify the soil. And then we add some information in this RSG, in this reference soil group, to have more information about the soil genesis, okay? Some people, they complain about WRB because they said that the name that we write for the soil classification, it's quite long sometimes, and yes, it's quite long sometimes, but it's long when it's need to be long, when we have add a lot of information, okay? So some people, they usually say that the WRB, it's more like a description system than a classification system, but it's a classification system, okay? Because we classify soil according specific reference soil groups and according to specific diagnostic horizons, diagnostic properties, and diagnostic characteristics, okay? And we have 32 reference soil groups. So we have 32 RSG. So we have a lot of them. We spend a lot of time talking about each of these reference soil groups. We have some similarities with soil taxonomy, and some of them are quite unique, quite different from the soil taxonomy. But as I said, it's just trying to improve the soil classification, especially for some specific regions around the world. Okay, so let's start with the definition. Okay, how WRB defines soil. Okay, according to WRB, soil is classified as any kind of material in the first 2 meters below the surface that its contact with the atmosphere, excluding living organisms, areas with continuous ice that are not covered by other material, and water bodies deeper than 2 meters. So you can see that it's a quite broad, quite general, quite open definition about what should be classified as soil, what should be defined as soil, okay? So just as an example, if you have bare rock, if you have rock outcrops, I'm sorry, you also can call it as soil, and you can use WRB to classify that material. Okay, so this is quite interesting. WRB can be used even to rock outcrops, even to flooded areas that you have a layer of water above the soil. If this water layer, it's not, or this water body, it's not deeper than 2 meters, you can use WRB to classify soil, because we have some specific process that occurs in that area, and then we can classify. This is quite interesting because non-system, they don't are applied to flooded areas, or at least areas that will have a layer of water above the soil surface. Okay, we generally just ignore these areas, but for some regions they are quite important, especially areas that are quite close to rivers or that are deeply affected by lakes, but these rivers or these lakes are not too deep, or these areas are used by humans. The humans only have these areas close to rivers or close to lakes to use it, or these areas, they are the most fertilized areas, the highest fertility, it's there. So people, they plan to use these areas, they use these areas, and then WRB try to classify these soils, okay? So this is really, really interesting, because at least I don't know any other system that classifies soils that are covered by a thin water layer, okay? And this is quite interesting. Also, this is quite interesting. This definition is quite interesting because we are not connecting soil to support of life. So we can consider that even in the driest regions, like in the driest deserts, hot and cold deserts, even there we can find soil because soil is not connected to support life. We don't need especially aggregates or pads or horizons to classify that material according to WRB. So this is quite important. We need to consider this, that we have a very general definition about what could be classified using WRB, okay? So let's start to see now the master horizons and layers. And you can see a very common master horizons, very similar master horizons when we compare to soil taxonomy, but some of them are new, let's say in this word, okay? For example, we have now the O and the H master horizons, okay? And in the soil taxonomy, we only have the O master horizon, okay? Why I'm saying that? Because O and H master horizons both are connected to organic materials. They are rich, they are enriched in organic carbon, okay? And in soil taxonomy, we just have one master horizon to organic horizons or organic layers. Now we have two options, and this is quite good. This is quite interesting because we are describing, you will see, in different perspectives, in different approach, in different environments. Okay, we have the A horizon, basically the same. We have the E horizon, basically the same. We have the B horizon, basically the same. We have the C horizon, basically the same from soil taxonomy. And now we have the W horizon, the W layer. And in this case, it's similar to soil taxonomy too. We have a water layer, okay, using the W layer, but you should remember that even if the water is frozen, the solid water, we still call it as a W layer. In the case of WRB, we don't use the W for solid water. For solid water, for frozen water, we use the symbol I. So the I layer is the solid water. The liquid water is just the W layer. Okay, so these are the two new things that we consider when we think about WRB. We have the O and H, and we have the W and I. Okay, just to distinguish between similar conditions, but now we are talking about different environments. Okay, the W layer is connected to any area, could be very, very hot, quite hot, medium temperatures, cold temperatures, but often we have liquid water. The I layer, it's only found in very, very cold regions when the water is completely frozen at the solid state, and then we found the I layer. Okay, so they are found in different environments, and it's why the WRB prefers to distinguish between W and I layers, okay? And of course, the R layer is just the same from soil taxonomy. It's the rock, the fresh rock layer. So let's see these differences, okay? When we talk about the O horizon or the O layer, we are talking about organic materials and non-laminic materials. We don't have enriched horizon or a layer rich in laminic materials that are from lakes, okay? And the process that create this specific horizon or layer, it's basically the littering. That's the addition of organic matter from the primary productivity when the plants, especially the plants, are producing litter, and this organic matter, it's incorporated into the soil and enrich the soil in organic carbon and gets this very dark color, this darkened color, okay? So this organic matter at different stages of the composition could form as a O horizon or an O layer. And we call as an O horizon or a O layer if this specific horizon or layer is not saturated by water and no drainage. Okay, so this organic matter, this huge organic matter accumulation occurred in well-drained conditions, in oxic conditions with presence of oxygen, okay? So especially very cold temperatures, cold and dry temperatures, they could promote the organic matter stabilization, the organic matter concentration, accumulation, and then they could produce a thick, dark, organic layer, okay, or horizon, okay. But as I'm saying now, and I want to highlight this, the O horizon in the WRB case, when we consider the WRB, we are just talking about well-drained horizons, okay, horizons that are formed in non-saturated conditions and non-drained conditions. So the soil was not affected by water, was not flooded, okay? So this is the O horizon or the O layer. And the O horizon or the O layer could be found at the surface, or also it could be buried, okay? Especially in some specific cases, for example, at two slopes, on the two slopes, in very lowlands, when you have some slopes close to this area, some mass movement can bring material from upper lands and bury this organic layer or this organic horizon. So it's quite common to find O horizons or O layers buried at 40, 80 centimeters or even deeper than that, okay? Because in some specific regions, we're having intense mass movements and frequent mass movements, and these mass movements can bury the organic layer. Something that's quite important to mention now is that the WRB has a different boundary for organic materials from the soil taxonomy. You can remember that soil taxonomy considers that organic materials are organic layers, and organic horizons are those that will have organic carbon content that's equal or higher than 12%, 2%. In some cases, when we have some human action, some human influence, 8% is enough. But let's say for the majority of cases, we consider 12%. Well, this is not the same value when we are talking about WRB. When we use WRB to classify soils, we need to consider the boundary of 20%, 20. So the organic carbon content should be higher, quite higher, okay? So this is something that I need to highlight here, guys. You need to be careful all the times, because let's say that, for example, you are reading an article and you are reading that article that someone wrote and someone classified the soil according to soil taxonomy. And this person, he or she classified an O horizon. Okay, and you are checking, oh, it's an organic layer. And now you want to think, okay, which horizons and layers do I have when I consider WRB? Because I want to classify the soil as a WRB system. And some people just translate like, okay, if this person found the O horizon in the soil taxonomy, so we have the O horizon in WRB. Well, this is not correct, because you need to check the organic carbon content, okay? Sometimes, as I said, for example, a soil could register 9% of organic carbon. So according to soil taxonomy, this soil could be an O horizon if, for example, it registered human action, okay? But definitely in no case, no reason to classify the soil as an O horizon in the WRB, because WRB considered that the minimum content of organic carbon should be 20%, okay? Or even more, if this person found in that area like 15% of organic carbon, so according to soil taxonomy, even without human action, even without human disturbance, this soil, this layer, I'm sorry, should be classified as an O layer or an O horizon. But according to WRB, definitely not, because according to WRB, the minimum content is 20%. So guys, every time that you plan to translate the classification or to classify soil according to a new system, please be careful. You need to check all the criteria first, because if you just translate like, okay, this is a oxisol in the soil taxonomy, so this should be a ferrosol in WRB. Don't do that, because you can have huge problems. You can register huge problems and complications to your classification, okay? So you need to consider that one system, each system has its specific criteria, diagnostic horizons, and diagnostic properties. JJ, it's quite hard to memorize everything. What do you suggest? My suggestion is just try one of these systems with more effort, okay? So, for example, I like very much WRB. So I prefer to study and classify soils according to WRB. So when I'm in the field, when I'm digging, when I'm standing, when I'm describing soil in the field, I just think about WRB, just that. Okay, and when I come home, when I return from the lab, when I check the results and I have the lab results and I have time to check all the information, so then I will classify soil also according to soil taxonomy, because now I can check all the details in the field book. I can check all the details in my brochure of the soil taxonomy, and then I can classify soils correctly according to the both systems. If you try to do both in the field, of course, you can do that, no problem, but you need to be careful, because sometimes you can have some mistakes because you just are thinking about the criteria from one specific system, and now you are trying to classify according to the other one. So you need to be careful considering this, okay? Guys, just give me 1 minute, my door open it. Just 1 minute. Great, I'm back. So again, guys, be careful, okay? When you plan to classify a soil in a different system, for example, you read an article, or are you in the field and are you trying to classify soils? Great, use one system, okay? And then if you plan to classify according to other one, great, just close the brochure, open the new one, and rethink about, okay, let's start the new criteria. Let's switch the system. And after switch the system, now you can classify the soil, because they have different boundaries, they have different criteria, they have a lot of difference. We could, we should, we don't, we must, do not mix everything. We must consider that each system should be considered by itself. Okay, great. So after the O horizon or the O layer, we also have the H horizon or H layer. And these horizons and layers, they also are organic materials. So the organic carbon content should be the minimum at 20% or 20% or more than that. Okay. And this organic layer or horizon is produced by what we call paludization. This specific process is the concentration of organic carbon at fluid conditions, And it's quite simple and easy to understand that fluid conditions, they can preserve organic carbon. And because of this, you can storage a huge amount of organic carbon, and you can register some organic horizons and layers with a very high organic carbon content in these conditions. Okay, so these horizons or layers, they are more related to big rivers, lakes, or mangroves, or any other system that will have a lot of water, and this water is quite close to saturation or even at saturated condition. Okay, this organic carbon could register different stages of the composition, so you can register different stages of the composition of this material. And these horizons, they are saturated by water or they were drained by humans. So even if these areas are affected by humans, you can keep it as a H horizon or a H layer. Okay, and both conditions also could be found at surface or buried conditions. So especially considering that they are close to rivers or lakes, it's quite common to find in some conditions buried H horizons, because the river in some time in the past, they just deposit a huge amount of organic carbon, and then after some time start to deposit some mineral material over this organic carbon rich layer or horizon. Then we have a buried H layer. Okay, so H and O horizons both are organic rich layers and horizons. They are enriched in organic carbon. The organic carbon content should be equal or higher than 20%, but they are formed at different conditions. The O horizon in well-drained conditions. The H horizon, poorly drained conditions, fluid areas. Okay, I usually use a kind of tip to remember this quite easily, because I think like O horizon, O2, oxygen, H horizon, H2O, water. So the H horizon, it's related to water. The O horizon is related to oxygen. Well-drained, poorly drained conditions. Okay, and then we can distinguish very easily these two different environments. Okay, from the
Professor?
others, yeah.
Professor, why might an H horizon be found buried beneath a mineral soil?
I'm sorry, can you repeat? I didn't get it.
Okay. Why might H horizon be found buried beneath a mineral soil?
Oh, yes, because you should remember that one specific thing is the master horizon, another thing is the diagnostic horizon, and another thing is the classification of the soil. Okay, so let's say that, for example, you found a very thin organic layer. Okay, so just let's say 5 centimeters. Okay, so just 5 centimeters, it's too thin to classify that layer as organic layer. You will see in the next slides, maybe in the next class, when we talk about the diagnostic horizons, we have some diagnostic horizons related to organic material. And this HISTIC and FOLISTIC diagnostic horizons, they have a minimum thickness, okay? That's close to 40 centimeters, 40. So just 5 centimeters, it's not enough to classify organic diagnostic horizon. Without this organic diagnostic horizon, you cannot classify a soil as, for example, a histosol. So the organic soils, they are histosols. All others, they are mineral soils. So yes, you can have H or an O horizon even in a mineral soil, if this mineral soil has just a very thin layer of organic materials or a thin layer of O or H layers or horizons. In some cases, let's say that even if the thickness is the minimum to classify the diagnostic horizon. So let's say that I have 20 centimeters of age horizon. So I can fit the HISTIC diagnostic horizon. So I fit the diagnostic horizon. But let's say that the histosols, the order, the group, has that you should register this minimum thickness as 40 centimeters, not only 20 centimeters. So you still have a mineral soil because you should classify this soil as, let's say, Cambisol or the leptosol or a regosol or any other kind of thing, but with a HISTIC horizon. Okay, so we need to consider that they are different things. One thing are the master horizons. The master horizons, they can occur everywhere. Even an organic master horizon can be found in a mineral soil because maybe this could be related to the thickness. Okay, just as I'm just mentioning one specific criteria, but we also can think in other options. But the most simple, the simplest option is just the thickness. Think about the thickness, okay? And then you can realize that, okay, we can register some organic master horizons even in mineral soils, okay?
Okay.
Great, great.
Any primary difference, the H horizon with horizon? This is the profile.
Yeah, the basically difference between them, it's the saturation, because as I said, the O horizon was not drained and was never fluided. So all the organic matter, it's associated, it's connected to well-drained conditions. So let's say that a cold environment or environment that's enriched in calcium or aluminum or clay, all of these factors, they induce it and they preserve it, the organic carbon content, and they preserve it an organic layer or horizon. In the age horizon and layers, we have in this case fluided conditions. Okay, so we have a lot of different mechanisms that could preserve organic carbon. One of them is temperature. Very low temperatures can produce organic layers or horizons that can be thick and can register darker colors, and they can have very high organic carbon content. But this is just one of the mechanisms. We also can find, in some cases, soils that are enriched in calcium or magnesium or aluminum. And all of these elements, they can help carbon, organic carbon preservation. So all of these elements at very high contents, they can avoid the microbial decomposition of organic carbon. And because of this, you can register thin, dark, enriched organic layers because of these mechanisms. Okay. We also can think on another mechanism that could stabilize organic carbon. In some specific cases, this organic carbon could be very, very hard to be decomposed because, for example, it could be enriched in lignin, or the CN ratio didn't yield a fast decomposition of the organic carbon, or even in some cases, I found some dry lands with these conditions, the organic carbon, it's hydrophobious. So it's not very easily mixed with water. And because of this organic matter could hardly be decomposed by microbiological activity. So we have some different mechanisms that could avoid organic matter decomposition, all of them in well-drained conditions. So all of these possibilities, they are connected to the O horizon or O layer, okay? And how can I know that, JJ? You just need to check the environment. So let's say that I'm describing a soil profile in the top of a mountain. So hardly that area is flooded. I need to check, of course, but hardly that area is flooded. I need to check, for example, the kind of species that grows in that areas, because we know that some species, they are adapted to flooding conditions, to flooded conditions, and some of them are not adapted to flooding. Some of them cannot grow in flooding, and so we can know that. Of course, also considering some specific properties of the soil, for example, flooded areas, they have, especially flooded areas, they have a gray color, a strong gray color, and sometimes we have metals that are concentrations of iron and or manganese in the soil because of the fluctuation of the water table level. So this kind of morphological properties can be used, of course, should be used to identify if that area is connected or not connected to flooding. About draining, oh, how can I know if this area were drained or not drained? Well, are you working in a field, in a farm? Just ask people if they already drained or if they drained this area in the past. Again, check the vegetation cover. If you have species that only can grow in flooded areas and they are growing that region, probably that area was drained. So we have some specific morphological tips and species compositions that can be used to distinguish between O and H, because the basic definition is just O, it's related to well-drained conditions. H is related to poorly drained conditions. O is formed in areas that never were saturated or they were not drained. And the H horizon or H layer, they were formed in areas that in the past were flooded or today are flooded or they were drained by humans, okay? So basically the difference is that we need to consider gray colors, models, presence of some specific species that could help us to identify if that area was flooded or not flooded. Okay, of course, the relief, the topography, they can help us a lot also considering this. And even the land use also sometimes could be connected, because we know that humans, they don't do some kind of activities or they don't plant some specific plants in areas that are flooded or not flooded. Okay, the proximity of the rivers, lakes, well, we also can consider this because they are generally more connected to age horizons and age layers. Okay, so again, you can have some morphological evidence. You can check the species, the vegetation species. You can talk with people that live in that region. You can check the relief and topography. All of this information, of this source, all of these things are sources for distinguish between O and H horizons and layers. Although this is quite important, I don't think that this is hard, because in the majority of cases, it's quite easy to distinguish between flooded and non-flooded areas, even if you consider that that area was drained in the past, okay? But as I said, it's quite easy to distinguish them. If you say that, oh, JJ, I'm not comfortable to say that because I think that this could be quite hard. Well, so you can run some lab analysis, and according to the isotopic composition of the organic matter, you can distinguish if this area, if the organic matter were concentrated, were accumulated, were deposited at well-drained or poorly drained conditions, because algae and species that grows in flooded areas, they have one specific, very, very specific isotopic signature. So as I said, according to the isotopic composition of the organic matter, you also can have, let's say, a last confirmation that you have organic matter that were deposited in well-drained or poorly drained conditions, okay? And I'm just saying some things that are popping in my mind, because I'm quite sure that we have other kind of evidences that also can be used to distinguish areas that we have O horizon and layer, or H horizon and layer. Okay? Is it okay? Is it okay? Okay. Oh, okay, great, great. So let's skip going. Okay, so we already saw that. So, well, the A horizon is basically the same horizon that we already have for soil taxonomy. They are mineral horizons, so the organic carbon content should be less, should be lower than 20%, okay, even when we have human disturbance. So all A horizons, according to WRB, they have less than 20% of organic carbon, okay? All of them, okay? They can have 19, 19.5, 19.9, still below 20%, okay? Or 0.6, 0.4, it's below 20%. All of them could be called A horizons, okay? And the A horizon, they are, they don't have a strong rock influence, so they have little or no rock structure. So basically all the gravels and very huge materials that are connected to the parent material, they are deeply weathered and destroyed. Oh, JJ, so we cannot find A horizons with a lot of gravels. Yes, we can find some horizons, some A horizons with a lot of gravels, but in these cases, we should think that this gravel it's enriched, or the content of gravels is quite rich, because some specific surface process, I'm sorry, I need to correct this, surface process, they produce some A horizons enriched in gravels. For example, the elutriation, that process that could remove a lot of fine particles, especially clay at the surface, this could reduce the content of clay and then enrich the content of gravels and sand particles at the surface. So even then, we will have a lot of gravels in some cases, we are still calling that specific layer of that specific horizon, that specific section as a horizon, because surface process created that specific horizon. Okay, so as I said, eluturation, this clay removal from the surface, is one of the process that we very known. It's very, very known for especially dry regions. And then we call the horizon that lose clay because of this eluturation, because of the runoff, as a horizon. Okay, according to WRB, also any horizon that it's affected by humans, it's called an A horizon. So anthropic disturbance, anthropic influence induce the formation of A horizons. Okay, of course, the melanization, it's the darkening of a horizon because of the partial decomposition of organic matter. Um, this also could induce a horizon formation, and the A horizons, they are more common at the surface, but they also can be found in some cases buried. Okay, because as the O and H horizons, this horizons sometimes can be buried by mass movements, especially at lowlands like terraces. It's quite common to find A horizons, buried A horizons, because the mass movements or the fluvial deposits or the alluvial deposits or the colluvial deposits, they buried the A horizons. Okay, so A horizons are formed at the surface by darkening of the horizon or by surface process. Okay, and among this surface process, we have the humans affecting the soil properties, the soil morphology, the soil physical and chemical properties and characteristics. Okay, so this dark section of soil, a horizon. All this dark section of the soil, it's a horizon. This is a horizon because that specific section, sorry, this section I already showed you, they are shells and bones added by humans. So this is just human disturbance, human influence. So it's a horizon, okay? Or a lot of A horizons. We also have the E horizon, and we already know the horizon express the eluviation of soil organic matter, clay minerals, iron, aluminum, or some combination of these materials. So we have the clay removal or organic matter removal or iron or aluminum removal or some combination like organic matter and aluminum. Okay, so the E horizon, it registered this whitish color because everything that gets color to soil like organic matter or iron oxides, they are moving from this horizon, or they move it from this horizon to another horizon, to a deeper horizon. Okay, so we have some horizons with this whitish color showing that we have an intense removal or destruction of materials. Okay, so still an E horizon. We also have the B horizon, and guys, is the same that we have for the soil taxonomy. B horizons can be formed by different processes, okay? They can concentrate clay that migrate from upper horizons. They can concentrate organic matter that migrates from upper horizons. They can be, oh, sorry, I returned it. Oh, sorry again. They can register a residual concentration of iron oxides, aluminum oxides, one-to-one minerals because of intense buffering and leaching. They can register any kind of cementation by calcium carbonate, gypsums, salt, or they can register any destruction of primary minerals. So, oh, I have some calcium carbonate, primary calcium carbonate, and the destruction of calcium carbonate identifies a B horizon. Oh, I have gypsum, and the wafting of gypsum identifies a B horizon. Oh, I have some areas that are cemented by calcium carbonate, as you can see here. This cementation indicates a B horizon, okay? Even the pedalization, even the formation of pads and aggregates, as you can see in this photo, we can just see our angular structure, angular blocky structure in the microscope. This also tells you that this specific horizon also is a B horizon because we have pads, we have aggregates, okay? The clay skins, those shiny faces that express the clay migration, some pressure and friction faces, everything that shines are connected to a B horizon. The presence of redoxymorphic features also express a B horizon, okay? And basically everything that's formatted at subsurface and register any process, it's a B horizon. The C horizons or the C layers are those horizons and layers that they don't fit the properties related to a O, H, A, E, or B horizons, okay? And they have a weak or even no pedalization. So I cannot find structure, or if the structure is quite weak, okay? We have some obliteration of the parent material. So the parent material is not fresh. We can still see it there, especially in metamorphic rocks, because we can see some of the layers of the rock, but the rock is not fresh anymore, okay? And definitely the C horizon or the C layer is not a cemented horizon, because cementations by calcium carbonate, gypsum, salts, silica, iron oxides, manganese oxides, everything is connected to B horizon, okay? So basically our weak horizon that express some wafting of the fresh rock. You can still see the fresh rock here, but for example, if I use my fingers, or if I use a hammer, or if I use my knife, I easily can break I easily can break this material because it's not fresh rock anymore. Okay, all of these photos are showing you C horizons. We have the W layer, in this case, just a liquid water, and this liquid water could be above or below the soil surface, so within or beneath the soil, okay? Basically, the water table. And the I layer, now it's the another difference from the soil taxonomy, that's the frozen water, the solid water, we call it as an I layer, especially to very cold regions, okay? And the R layer, again, basically the same from the soil taxonomy, the fresh rock or any kind of material that register the parent material, okay, a fresh parent material. Some of these materials that you hardly can excavate or you can break using only your fingers or light tools, let's say like a hammer or a knife. You need a shovel or even heavier tools to break a piece of material, okay? So guys, the master horizons, they are quite simple because we don't have a lot of differences, but now let's start to see the diagnostic horizons. The diagnostic horizons, they are quite important. Yes, Nanchi, yes, open your microphone.
Well, thank you so much, Prof. The WRB a method of classifying soil and the soil taxonomy method, you for the O horizon that at least the organic matter should be less than 20% for the WRB method. What are the reason behind choosing that 20% for the WRB? I would like to know that. And in the area of application, which of these method?
I'm sorry, Luigi, I couldn't hear you. Your last question. I couldn't.
What I'm
I
saying is
couldn't.
that, okay, I will repeat that. What I'm trying to say,
Yes.
Prof, is that if in the field of practice, the two method you made mention, which one can give more reference to when classifying the soil in the field of classification, maybe for farmers or other usage of soil among these two methods?
I see. Well, first of all, why the systems they use different values, they use different boundaries. This is quite hard to explain, but soil taxonomy in the past, they consider the same boundary. In the past, in the previous versions, they also use 20% of organic carbon to identify organic layers and organic horizons. But they change it, of course, they change it in the last version. Why they did that? Because they consider that materials, horizons, layers with the minimum content of 20% already has a strong influence of the organic carbon in the soil properties. So they run some lab and statistical analysis, and they realize that, for example, a soil with 13% of organic carbon already has the majority of morphological, physical, and chemical properties controlled by the organic carbon, controlled by the soil organic matter. So they start to rethink about the boundaries, and then they decrease the values. Okay. I think that considering this, maybe in the future, the WRB also can rethink about the boundaries, and maybe they also can decrease the boundary to 20% or even less than that, because we also have other systems that they have different boundaries. Okay, just as an example, the Brazilian system of soil classification considered that only 8% is enough. So according to the Brazilians, O or H horizon could be classified, could be identified if you have the minimum content of 8%. So as I said, each system has specific criteria, and these criteria, they came from the experience from the researchers that made and write the systems. But of course, these values can change according to time after new researchers, after new studies came. So the soil taxonomy changed in the last version according to this, according to some statistical studies that showed that for the US, considering the US soils, when you have a value that's equal or higher than 12%, this is more than enough of organic carbon that you need to register a soil with organic properties that are more important than the mineral ones. So if you have 2-to-1 or 1-to-1 minerals, doesn't matter, because the organic carbon content it's quite high, and now the organic carbon controls all the physical, chemical, and morphological soil properties. This is according to the US, according to their findings. I hope that this could also be considering WRB, because a lot of soils that we classify as organic soils in the Brazilian system and even in soil taxonomy, they are not organic soils considering WRB. But I don't know. It depends on the people that will discuss this in the next few years, to trying to find what they consider as the main characteristic of these soils. Okay, so the reason for the difference of values, basically new studies that were that improve the boundaries in the soil taxonomy, and in WRB they keep with the same value in the last, let's say, 20 years. Okay, and about your second question, which system should I consider or should I use to, for example, a farmer, or to widespread important information in the field? Well, my answer is that depends on who is the person that's receiving this information, and depends on which kind of use do you plan for this information. Okay, so let's say that are you attending any kind of work that you are working with farmers, and you need to translate, let's say, translate the scientific information into, let's say, less hard or more common words and more common information that can be easily used by farmers. Sometimes farmers that are not very well, they are not very well known with scientific knowledge. So maybe soil taxonomy could be easier. I think that WRB, guys, just my opinion, okay, in this time, WRB, in my opinion, it's much more connected to soil genesis than the land use. So if you classify soils according to WRB, you should be more focused on the soil genesis, or on how that soil was formed. If you are focused on, okay, let's think which kind of land uses can we plan for this area, and the frequency of animals that can pasture here, or how many animals can we put here to pasture, or which kind of weed can we grow in this area, or any kind of these questions connected to agriculture or wildlife stock. Great. I think that soil taxonomy is the best option for you, okay? Because soil taxonomy, it's a simpler system. In my opinion, it's quite simple, and the transmission of information, it's easier, okay? But as I said, you need to consider for each case, okay? For studies, I'm just studying an area, and I'm doing my dissertation or my thesis, and let's say that I want to study this area and understand a little better about the soil formation in this area. My suggestion, use the WRB. Oh, JJ, I want to know how much wheat can I produce in this area. Okay, use soil taxonomy. I think that will be much more interesting, okay? But again, you need to consider case by case, okay?
Thank you so much, Prof.
Welcome, welcome. So return, let me return. I don't understand why my screen stopped to share it. Let's return. Great. So now I will open the 6th class and we start to see the diagnostic horizons. Okay. So let's see the diagnostic horizons. And in the WRB, we have a lot of diagnostic horizons. You can think if you have 32 reference soil groups, so we have a lot of diagnostic horizons, guys. And we will spend like 2 or 3 classes talking about the diagnostic horizons in WRB because yes, we have a lot. But don't worry, we don't need to rush this. We can talk, stop, talk, stop. Don't worry, okay? So let's start talking about the first diagnostic horizons that are those diagnostic horizons that are deeply affected by humans, okay? So we have a group of diagnostic horizons that express human disturbance, human influence, okay? And they can be at surface or subsurface, okay? So they can be formed at surface or at subsurface, or they can be very, very deep, okay? We also have some organic or mineral diagnostic horizons. We see that some of them can be organic or mineral according to the content of organic carbon. We also have some diagnostic horizons that only can be organic. We also have some diagnostic horizons that only can be mineral and be formed at surface. And we have some diagnostic horizons that are related to accumulation of matter. Okay, and we will see, we'll discuss about that. And we have others diagnostic horizons that they don't express accumulation of matter. They are not formed on the surface. They are not organic, or they cannot be organic or mineral, and they don't register a deep influence of humans, okay? In this class today, we start with the human affected horizons, those diagnostic horizons that are deeply affected by humans, okay? And replying the last question again, if you plan to study, or especially if you plan to study, or if you plan to work with a soil that was deeply affected by humans, my suggestion is that you work with WRB, because we don't have a lot of horizons or diagnostic horizons to identify human action in the soil according to soil taxonomy. If you remember very well, we just have the anthropic app pattern, and the anthropic app pattern express human influence, just that. But all the different kinds and types of human influence, all of them produce what we call anthropic app pattern. Okay, this fits very well the human disturbance, but we put everything in the same bag. We put all the human influence and disturbance in the same bag. So we humans living now, disturbing the soil or influencing the soil properties, we are in the same diagnostic horizon from indigenous people that lived 1,000, 10,000 of years before the present, and they also influenced the soil properties. So we have very different ways of life. We have different kinds and types of influence on soil, but all of them, all these possibilities, they are in the same bag. This is not the same for WRB. WRB, we fit different influence. We have different activities. We have different properties and different types of diagnostic horizons according to the type of human disturbance, according to the type of human action, according to the type of human influence. Okay, so if you planning to study, let's say, oh, JJ, I'm planning to study human action in Andes or in South Africa or in Brazil. So my suggestion, pay attention to WRB, because this is a system that pays more attention, and it's of course improved when we consider the human action on soil. The other systems, they usually just have one or two, in the best case, two diagnostic horizons for human affected horizons. In this case, we have a lot of them. We have a plenty of them, because we have different types of human action on soil. And believe me, I still think that we need more diagnostic horizons to human action, but we don't have them in yet. Maybe in the next version, this number of diagnostic horizons will increase. I definitely hope that this will occur. Okay, so let's start. Let's start with the anthracic horizon. And the anthracic horizon is a surface horizon formed by wet field cultivation. So let's give you a very easy example. Rice pads, rice fields in the Asia. So the humans, they induced the flooding to cultivate one specific type of food or one specific activity. And because of this human influence, you changed all the soil properties, the morphology, physical and chemical properties. Okay, so this is one soil profile that you can see very easily. The grayish color, and this gray color, it's connected in this specific case to a landscape that will have huge rice fields in Japan. So the people in the past, they induced the flooding of these areas to cultivate rice, and these flooding conditions induced a strong change of soil properties. For example, we now can see very easily this grayish color. So this grayish color, this gray color, it's not something that naturally was produced. Okay, humans, they changed the environment, and because of this change, we have this grayish color. Okay, so the anthracic horizon is this anthros, humans, and aquatic, water. So we have a horizon flooded, and it's flooded by humans. Okay, you can see this is the landscape view of this photo that I took. Okay, so a very flat area, and in this area we have a field of rice, and humans, they induced this flooding, and this flooding changed deeply all the soil properties. So we call it as an anthracic horizon. Okay, this is another example of anthracic horizon. We can see very easily in this case this surface horizon with a darkish color, okay, but also a grayish color. In flooded condition, you can see these woods here. We just put them here so we could stick and take some samples, because this is also a flooded area. Okay, and in this specific case, the humans, they change the water table level according to some machines and technology. So they induce the flooding, or they reduce the water table level according to their own interests. Okay, and as we know, all the diagnostic criteria, they have a definition that I told you. Humans flooded an area, and because of this, we have some morphological, physical, and chemical properties that were induced, changed, modified by humans. but we also have the criteria. And to classify a diagnostic horizon, we must follow the diagnostic criteria. At least those are mandatory. Those that are mandatory are connected to end. And we have some options like or, okay? So the first case, a surface horizon that's called as an anthracic horizon consists of mineral material. So the organic carbon should be below 20%. I shouldn't register 20% or more to identify an anthracic horizon. So the organic carbon content should be less than 20%. Okay? Okay, and a pudlet layer with the following muscle colors when moist in 80% of this exposed area. I should register a hue of 7.5 YR or yellower, a value that's equal or below 4, and a chroma that's equal or below 2, or a hue of JY, B or BG, and a value of that's equal or below 4. All of these colors, especially the B option, express grayish colors with a very strong influence of the gray, okay? In this case, because of this low value and low chroma and yellowish colors, we also admit, because in some cases, if the fluting is not too intense, you still register some yellowish colors, especially when the yellowish is quite strong in the hue, like you can see 7.5 YR or even higher than that, but the value and the chroma is quite low. Okay, so this is showing you that you have a very strong yellowish color or even a grayish color. Of course, the B option is much more common. Okay, so one of them you need to fit, and a blue pen, or I need to find a layer that's quite hard because of the mixing of the material underlying the pudlet layer with all of the following. So I need to fit A, B, and C. Letter A, one or both of the following: a platy structure or a massive structure. So this blue pen, this layer that's quite hard, quite difficult to break, it should register a platy structure, a horizontal structure. So all the pads, they have a horizontal structure, or even a massive structure. They don't register pads or aggregates in at least 25% of its volume, okay? And it should register a high bulk density, or at least higher than the pudlet layer. So those layers that have an intense mixing of soil, below of it, we have a layer that's quite hard, and this hard layer should register a platy structure or a massive structure and a very high bulk density, or a bulk density that's higher than 10% or more than this overlying pudlet layer. And oxymorphic features. What are oxymorphic features, JJ? Oxymorphic features, as the name says, they are features that express oxidation, okay? So oxymorphic features are bodies that express oxidation of iron and or manganese, okay? So I will show you a photo and you will understand very easily that, okay? These oxymorphic features, they should cover at least 5%, and they are predominantly on biopore walls. If soil aggregates are present, predominantly on or adjacent to aggregate surfaces. And they just need to register high hues, high chromas, okay? and a minimum thickness of 15 centimeters. So let's focus now on these oxymorphic features. They are this. You can see this in this photo that the soil has a grayish color. So you can see the gray color here. And we have some voids here. And these voids, they are biopores. They were created by roots. Okay, when the roots are growing, they are producing, they are creating some voids. And you can see that around these voids on the walls, you have some oxymorphic features. You have some reddish colors that are expressing oxidation of iron. Why can we see these oxymorphic features around the biopores? Because of course, if they are biopores, we have vegetables, we have animals, we have vegetation, we have roots, something that it's breathing and it's releasing oxygen. And this release of oxygen could oxidize the iron, but the oxidation of iron, it's quite limited. So the oxidation of iron cannot reddish or darkish the material, only the walls. So I can see these reddish colors only on the walls because I have oxygen close to the voids or inside the voids, but I cannot redden the rest of the aggregates or the rest of the soil. So the soil has a grayish color, but close to the voids, I can see, especially in this case, some circles that shows some oxidation, and the oxidation of iron gets this reddish color, but it only occurs close to biopores. Okay, so if I can register all of these properties, so I can call something as an anthracic horizon. A horizon that has morphological, physical, and chemical properties deeply influenced by humans, okay? And again, I need to fit all these criteria, okay? Oh, you can see here too, it's quite all these voids, they are produced by biological activity, and you can see that only close to the voids we have reddish colors. Here's my finger, so you can see that the size of these voids are not huge. They are definitely not huge, but we can see this grayish color in the soil, but also the voids with this reddish color, okay? So this horizon, if it fits all the criteria that we saw, and this reddish color around the biopores, great, I can call it as an anthracic horizon, okay? If that specific session, they don't fit all the requirements, so I need to classify it as another diagnostic horizon. Okay, it's not an anthracic. Oh, another photo I took, a sample inside the aggregate. You can easily see here as a biopore. Inside the biopore, all the walls, they are deeply oxidized, okay? So you can see the reddish color here, the reddish color here, but the rest of the soil, it's just gray, okay? A very strong grayish color. Here is the same, is more like yellowish color, so the gray is not so strong, but I can see some muddles around the biopores showing some oxidation close to the pores or the voids formed by animals or vegetation, okay, especially by roots. Now, let's see another horizon, another diagnostic horizon that's also formed by humans, the Arctic horizon. The Arctic horizon is a horizon that it's like heart. It's like a place close to your house that you can add some material and then improve the soil quality, improve the soil fertility, and then you can produce some food for yourself. Okay, so the Heartec Horizon, it's that horizon that's connected to addition of organic carbon and fertilizers. Okay, this Heartec Horizon registers high base saturation, high phosphorus content, high carbon content, and of course, high biological activity. So it's quite common to find in these areas a lot of earthworms, okay, growing and surviving in this area and living in these horizons, because people, they generally are adding some residual materials, organic materials enriched in carbon, and sometimes even some fertilizers, especially, let's say, not green fertilizers like bones, some eggshells, and this kind of things, like residues from human action that could improve the natural fertility. Okay? And let's see the diagnostic criteria for that. Well, the Heartec Horizon is a surface horizon that consisting of mineral material. So again, the organic carbon content should be less than 20%. Okay, so if the organic carbon content is equal or higher than 20%, I cannot classify that specific section as a Heartec Horizon. I should call it as another thing. Okay, the color, value, and chroma should be equal or below 3 when moist, and the total organic carbon should be equal or higher than 1%. So equal or higher than 1%, less than 20%. Okay, the content of phosphorus that is extractable by MELEC 3 should be equal or higher than 120. Okay, when extracted in the first 20 centimeters. So I should register a high content of phosphorus, showing that some humans are improving the fertility, the natural fertility of that soil. The base saturation should be equal or higher than 50%. So I should register a high base saturation. The majority of cations that are absorbed to the clays, the majority of them are calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. Okay, we can register some aluminum, we have some hydrogen, but the majority of them, at least 50%, half of that CEC is filled out by bases. Okay, so this means that I register a lot of calcium, a lot of magnesium, a lot of potassium, a lot of sodium. Okay, 20%, 25%, I'm sorry, 25% or more of the area, of exposed area, express animal pores, voids, coproliths, or other traces of soil animal activity. So this Heartec Horizon should express intense bioturbation. Okay, it's quite common that humans, they add some earthworms trying to improve the natural fertility of that area. So we saw a lot of voids produced by these animals. And okay, and the minimum thickness is 20 centimeters. Okay, so we should register at least 20 centimeters of a Heartec Horizon to classify it. Okay. Okay. So now it's 10:30. Let's stop for 15 minutes so I can drink a coffee. You can drink a coffee. You can go to the restroom and we can return. Okay. So we will return in 15 minutes. Let's just stop. Hi guys, so let's turn. Let me share my screen again. Great. So let's go back. Okay, let's go back to talk about diagnostic horizons that are deeply influenced by humans. Okay, in this specific case, we also have a hydraulic horizon. And a hydraulic horizon is a subsurface horizon. So you already saw this picture because we have an anthracic horizon at the surface, but now we have also a subsurface horizon that it's formed or it's deeply influenced by humans. Below anthracic horizons, we can find the hydraulic horizon. Okay, the hydraulic horizon, it registers redoxymorphic features related to this flooding, especially because of the intense movement of animals and machines at the surface. Sometimes you can produce some hard, some pen layers that hardly can favor water percolation, and in some cases you can induce so the flooding of the area because of the water table that hardly can penetrate through the soil. So we have the influence of the water table level changing, but we also have some influence of water table or of some water, I'm sorry, that can penetrate through the surface but cannot achieve the deepest horizons because you formed some horizons, some sections that register a high bulk density and very high bulk density, and this induce a perched water table, and this perched water table forms what we call hydraulic horizon. Okay, so the hydraulic horizon consists of a mineral horizon. Again, the organic carbon content should be less than 20% of organic carbon, and it is overlaid by an anthracic horizon. So in this section, we have here the anthracic horizon, and in this zone, the hydraulic horizon, this grayish color related to a horizon that it's deeply influenced by human action, and we have this grayish color because of the water that cannot easily penetrate through the soil because an intense and frequent movement of machines and animals. And this horizon consists of one or more subhorizons, and each of them has one or more of the following: reductimorphic features, and this is the opposite of the oxymorphic features. Okay, so the oxymorphic features are those features that express oxidation. The reductimorphic features are features that express reduction. Okay, and these features, they have a Munsell color with a value that's equal or higher than 4 and a chroma that's equal or below 2, both moist, around biopores walls. So close to those voids that are created by animals or plants, especially roots, we have these reductimorphic features. Let me show some of them. So you can see in this case that the horizon has like a yellowish color, and in this zone close to the void we have this zone with a grayish color. Can you see that here, especially here and here? This grayish color is an expression of reductimorphic features that are around the biopores. So this biopore is a void created by roots. So the roots grow in the soil, and because they now are enriched in water that came from the surface horizon and achieve this span, this layer that has a very high bulk density, the water cannot still penetrating through the soil, cannot keeps going on in deeper horizons. And because of this, we have a saturated void. The saturated void starts the reduction of the iron, but only in the voids, because the soil has a saturation, but only in the voids. And because of this, you can see the soil with a yellowish color and a grayish color in the voids, expressing the reductimorphic, reductive features, reductimorphic features, okay? So again, we have in this case some water that can penetrate through the anthracite horizon, and this water cannot easily penetrate through all the hydraulic horizon, because we have a horizon with a high density or a pen layer below of it that hardly can yield that water migrate through this section. So because of this, we have the formation of a perched water table level, and this perched water table level saturate all the voids. The saturation of the voids induce the reductimorphic features, these features that express reduction. And why they express reduction? Because only the voids are saturated by water, okay? So the hydraulic horizon is a horizon that's formed below the anthracite horizon, or could be formed below the anthracite horizon, okay? And it's the opposite. Now we see close to the biopores, close to the voids, we have now a grayish color, none the opposite, okay? The criteria, it's those that we see number 1 and number 2, or letter B, because we have AA, number 2A, number 2B, that's 15% or more of the exposed area with oxymorphic features. And these oxymorphic features are predominantly inside soil aggregates. The oxymorphic features, we already know what they are those models and iron concentrations that express iron oxidation, okay? And have a Munsell color hue that equal or higher than 2.5 units rather, and a chroma that should be equal or higher than 1 unit higher when moist than the surrounding material. So we should register oxymorphic features that are predominantly inside the soil aggregates and register reddish colors, or at least 15% of the exposed area with oxymorphic features that are predominantly on the biopores walls, if the soil aggregates are present, predominantly on or adjacent to aggregate surfaces, and have a Munsell color hue that's equal or higher than 2.5 units rather, and a chroma that's 1 or higher unit higher than the surrounding material. So it's quite nice because now I'm focused on the oxymorphic features. So if that specific horizon has a grayish color and some oxymorphic features, it also could be called as a hydraulic horizon, okay? Or the iron extracted by ditonite, it's equal or higher than 1.5 times, and the manganese extracted by the Ditonite, it's equal or higher than 3 times than the weighted average of the pudlet layer of the overlying Antarctic horizon. So I should register more iron and more manganese in this horizon than the Antarctic horizon, and a thickness of 10 centimeters. Okay, why I'm saying that? Because I could register an hydraulic horizon that's more reducted, it register grayish, a strong grayish color, or it could register more yellowish colors. Both are accepted to hydraulic horizons, okay? But I need to consider that they have specific characteristics. If they are more grayish, I should consider number 2, letter A. If they have more yellowish colors, I will consider letter B or letter C. Okay, I need to follow one of these 2 options. And of course, this last option too, but this is more like depends on lab results, lab analysis. So it's hardish. It's quite hard to define this on the field. We definitely need lab results to check at the Antarctic and hydraulic horizons if they fit this criteria. And the minimum thickness of 10 centimeters. Okay, I don't pay a lot of attention for this, guys, because this is optional. Okay, just or it's not mandatory. So these criteria, they are mandatory because they have and they can be distinguished, they can be described in the field, so it's much easier. Okay, let's see now the hygraphic horizon. In this hygraphic horizon, it's more connected to also human action, but it's connected to a buried horizons. It's quite nice because the hygraphic horizon express some buried material. Okay, in some areas, people they cultivate the soil, and especially in dry regions, or at least in the regions that the dry season it's quite long, people they usually irrigate the soil with water. If this water has no high quality, or at least if this water that it's used to irrigation it's quite rich in sediments, the irrigation along several years could add a lot of material. So you can see on this photo, for example, that the letter B express a horizon that was buried. Okay, so this A horizon has a very darkish color and was formed on the surface. But after some years of irrigation, we have all this material that was added by irrigation. Wow, it's quite hard to think that this could occur, but yes, this could occur if this irrigation is quite frequent and heavy, and it register a high content of sediments. You are adding sediments, especially at silt size. So you have an addition of sediments at silt size, and then you bury a horizon. A horizon that was formed in natural conditions in the past. And now this material, this horizon that was formed by sedimentation of sediments that are connected to irrigation. So this specific horizon, we call it as an hygraphic horizon. So the hygraphic horizon is a horizon formed by sediments that were added by irrigation. Okay, so this is quite common in some regions in Africa and South America. Okay, especially to big rivers, close to big rivers, when people irrigate that regions for a long time, and this water was enriched in sediments, and the deposition of sediments buried through time some natural A horizons. Okay. So the criteria to identify this Ihagric horizon is that the surface horizon, it's consisted by mineral material. So again, the organic carbon content should be less than 20%. And you are seeing that accepted by the Arctic horizon. All of the horizons that we saw until now, they don't register a minimum content of organic carbon. So all of them can be very, very poor in organic carbon, except the Arctic one. Okay. This Ihagric horizon, it should register soil aggregate structures. So we need to find pads or aggregates, or we need to find a cloudy structure or other structure elements created by agriculture practices. So the humans mixing the soil could produce some kind of pads or at least some kind of structural elements, and this counts, this fits for this criteria. And has one or both of the following: a clay content that should be at least 10% in a relative way, and 3% in an absolute way higher than the layer that's directly buried by the Ihagric horizon. So I need to register more clay in a relative way and absolute way. How can I say a relative and absolute way, JJ? How can I understand that? You just need to compare, okay? Absolute way, let's say, for example, the Ihagric content of clay is 13%. So at this buried A horizon, it's 10%. So I have at least 3% more absolute clay content. In a relative way, I just need to compare at a percentage stage. Okay, so the content of the clay in the Ihagric content, it's 100%. And how much clay do I have in this horizon that was buried? How much percent when I compare at a percentage stage? Or I can just split the content of clay at this Ihagric horizon and this buried A horizon. And if I fit at least 10% more, so great, I can call it as an Ihagric horizon, okay? Or a fine clay content that fits 10%, 3% more than this buried horizon, okay? The fine clay is a fraction of the clay that we usually extract on the lab by some use of centrifuge. Centrifuging the clay, sometimes you can extract this fine clay. Is the highest and most active part of the clay. It's not common that people, they analyze or at least they extract the fine clay, okay, but some people, they do that, especially people that work with soil mineralogy. Okay, so people that try to understand and find which minerals we have in the soil, they usually pay more attention to the fine clay content. For people that are only interested on soil classification, they just measure the clay content. Okay, so you need to register more clay than the buried horizon. And you have a difference in the medium sand contents, fine sand contents and very fine sand contents, silt contents, clay contents, and carbonate contents, that it's less than 20% or 4% in a relative or absolute ways, okay, between the subhorizons. Just to mention that all addition of material, they came from the same region, okay? So all the sub-horizons that compose the Ihagric horizon, they came from the same material, okay? They are not connected to variations of the energy of the river or the energy of the water that was used or the source of the water that was used to irrigate a region, okay? And has both of the following, at least in this case, 0.3% soil organic carbon, so I could not register very, very low organic carbon content, and a weighted average of at least 0.5%. Why I'm saying that's weighted average? Because sometimes when I have a lot of subhorizons, the weighted average according to the thickness of each of these horizons should be 0.5. If I only register one horizon, 0.3. If I register more than one, so I have at least 3 or 4 subhorizons, the weighted average according to considering the thickness should be at least 0.5. Okay? This irregular horizon also register at least 25% of area, exposed area of animal pores, coprophilus, or other traces of animal activity. So the bioturbation should be quite intense and show evidence that the land surface has been raised. So we have some evidences that show that material was added. Okay, for example, we can see on this photo very easily that we have here a buried A horizon, and all of this material shows that the surface was raised, was improved by the addition of material. Okay, so this is one of the possible evidence of land surface raised. Okay, raised land surface, I'm sorry. And the last criteria is about the thickness. The minimum thickness is 20 centimeters. So to call a horizon as an irregular horizon, the minimum thickness is 20 centimeters. And now, still talking about a horizon that has human influence and straight connected to agriculture, we have the pelagic horizon. The pelagic horizon, it's quite similar to the Pelagian pattern in soil taxonomy. Basically, humans trying to improve the soil fertility in areas with a very low natural fertility, especially in sandy materials, soils that has a very, very high content of sand and very low natural fertility. So people add sod and organic carbon. Who doesn't know what is sod? Sod is a material that's enriched in organic carbon, especially from herbs and grasses. So people, they add some material, especially some grass, trying to improve the natural fertility of the soil because they are adding more organic carbon, okay? But the base saturation is quite low in these areas because you are adding organic carbon, and the organic carbon cannot improve the base saturation in these areas. Actually, the organic carbon, it's a source of acid, and because of this, you have more acid and less bases on the CEC, and they also register an acidic pH. The acidic pH comes from the addition of organic carbon. This addition of organic carbon, especially because of the decomposition of grasses, they drops the pH. So you drop the pH, not a very acidic condition, but at an acidic condition, but at least addition of organic carbon could improve a little bit the natural fertility of the soils, okay? Let's see, the pelagic horizon is a surface horizon that also has a content that's less than 20% of organic carbon because it is a mineral material. Has a texture class of sand, loam sand, sand loam, or loam. So sandy textures or loamy textures are a combination of them. So basically the material is connected to sandy or loamy soils. One or more of the following contain artifacts but less than 20%, or has more than 100 milligrams per kilogram of phosphorus extracted by matic tree, okay, in the first 20 centimeters, has in its lower part spade or hook marks, showing that we have some mixing of soil and some evidence of agriculture, okay? Especially something that try to mix the material. Because when people, they add these organic residues, they try to mix them, trying to mix the mineral and organic materials to improve the natural fertility of the soil, okay? So they add some phosphorus, they add some organic carbon, but they don't register a lot of artifacts. They don't register a lot of materials that could also be connected to human action than just spade or hook marks, okay? The color should be dark, so you saw, should register a low value and a low chroma, should register at least 0.6% of soil organic carbon, and the base saturation should be low. So it's the opposite of the Arctic horizon. The base saturation should be less than 50%, so less than half of the CEC is fulfilled by bases, okay? Unless the soil has been limed or received mineral fertilizers, okay? So of course, if the humans, they add some lime or if they add some fertilizers, so we admit to classify a soil as a pelagic horizon with a high base saturation. But the most common case is register a low base saturation, because people, they don't add fertilizers in this case, they just add organic matter, okay? This pelagic horizon, it's quite common in very old regions in Europe because they are more connected to areas with strong agriculture before the creation of fertilizers. So people just add grass, especially from the forests, trying to improve the natural fertility, because they saw the forests and they saw, oh, I have a lot of trees here, so maybe the natural fertility is quite high. So they remove the organic matter from that region, they add to the soil that they are trying to improve the natural fertility, they add more phosphorus, they add more organic carbon, but basically the base saturation's still low, okay? And this could show some evidence that the land surface has been raised. As I said, they bring material from other regions. So it's quite common that the land surface was raised because now we are adding more material from other regions. And a minimum thickness of 20 centimeters. Okay, so it's basically the thickness, the depth that usually people bring material from other regions trying to improve the natural fertility, because it fits very well the root thickness and the root zone that explored by plants when they are doing some agriculture in the past, okay? We also have another horizon with a very strong influence of humans. This horizon is quite common in South America, quite common in Brazil, okay? This is the first photo that I'm showing you from Brazil in this class today. And the Pradec horizon, it's connected to Amazon dark earths. Okay, these Amazon dark earths, they are a type of soil that was produced by ancient indigenous people that bring material from other regions and add in the soil, trying to improve the natural fertility too. Okay, so they could add potsherds, they could add bones, they could add seeds, they could burn the soil, and because of this you can see some charcoal and some ash, and the charcoal and ash, they are the main reasons for the very strong dark color. Of course, we have a high content of carbon, especially organic carbon in the soils, but these very strong and darkish colors, they are strong connected to charcoal and ash. These soils, they register very high content of phosphorus, carbon, calcium, and magnesium because of the addition of bones, seeds, potsherds, and others, okay? The bones, they could be from other animals and even for humans, okay? So it's quite common to find different kinds of bones and sources of organic carbon in these horizons, okay? You can see here some fragments of ceramic potsherds that were buried and also some charcoal here, okay? In this case, the size is much larger. You can see here my finger. So this size is quite big, and it's quite common. Here another part of potsherds. We can find very easily these materials buried and mixed with the soil. Okay, this mixing could be induced by humans or no or none. Both cases, they induced the classification of the Pradesh horizon, okay? So you can see here other parts of charcoal, potsherds, and ceramic mixed in with the soil with this darkish color, okay? Another photo. Oh, here in the case, we have a lot of shelves, and the shells and bones, I already showed you this photo. Both are connected to Pradesh horizons that express an intense ancient human influence, okay? From people trying to improve the quality and the fertility of the soil. When people, they live close to big rivers and close to the coast, it's more common that they use shells trying to improve the natural fertility of these areas. So they add more calcium and magnesium in these areas, adding more shells. When they are far from big rivers, or they are at least far from the coast, they use more charcoal, ash, and ceramic, okay? At least it's more common. So the Pradesh horizon has some specific criteria. And the criteria is that it's a surface horizon, also with organic carbon content that's below 20%, a muscle color chart that should indicate dark colors, so low value and low chroma, a minimum organic carbon content of 0.6%, an exchangeable calcium and exchangeable magnesium when summed, they should be equal or higher than 1 centimole charge per kilogram of fine earth. We should register at least 100 milligrams per kilogram of phosphorus extracted by melich tree, okay? And one or both of the following. At least 1% of the exposed area we have black carbon, or 0.3% of carbon belonging to molecules of black carbon. So at least 0.3% of this carbon is black carbon, okay? And a ratio between carbon belonging to black carbon and total organic carbon, it's at least 0.15. Of course, both cases here, we can only identify on the lab. So we can identify the exposed area connected to black carbon, but this case, letter B, just on lab, okay? And we also have more criteria that's connected to thickness. 1 or more layers with a combined thickness of 20 centimeters. So I can register just one horizon or several sub-horizons. When I sum all of these sub-horizons, the minimum thickness should be 20 centimeters. Someone raise it, the hand? I don't know. Oh, yes, Adam, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for the wonderful lecture, sir. I have a simple question about this Pradesh horizon. I can see that the horizon is look like it's subsurface, not surface horizon. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is because of cryoturbation. Is this? But that's what I want you to make it clear, please.
Oh yeah. We have a strong discussion yet how people create this Pradesh horizon, because as I mentioned, they are quite common in the Amazon rainforest. And let's say that they were born in this area. So the definition was created trying to fit, especially what people call it in the past, Amazon dark earths. And then they tried to understand how people created this kind of horizons, because something that's quite funny, none of the indigenous people that we know today, they produce pratic horizons. So if you go to Amazon rainforest now and you can stay for a long time, even some years with the indigenous people, they are not producing pratic horizons. The majority of the pratic horizons, they were produced, let's say, around 2000 of years before the present. And the youngest of them, they were produced around 500 of years before the present. So it seems that the indigenous people that create them, they are not living anymore in South America, and they, let's say, disappear after Europeans arrived in South America. Okay, so we cannot definitely know the answer if they produce it like by tradition, or they just trying to improve the natural fertility. The people that works in the archaeological side, they said that we have different sources and different types of pratic horizons. We have some pratic horizons that were produced by some kind of tradition, like people, they buried some an important person that died in that community, or they just buried her or his dad or mom or son, okay, in that region. But we also have some pratic horizons that were produced because people just add material to that region, trying to improve the natural fertility, because they are starting to do some kind of agriculture. Some people also from the archaeological side, they said, especially in this case, when they use shelves, that these shelves, they were added trying to rise the surface. Why they are planning to do that? Because in areas close to the coast or very close to big rivers, the relief is quite flat. So you cannot see very easily if you have, for example, some enemy that it's getting close to you, to your tribe, to your community. So they rise the surface some meters, like 10, 20 meters, just adding, concentrating, let's say, trash or organic residues in an area, and then they create a hill. And with this hill, someone can be on guard. Someone can be watching the neighborhood, and they can see if any kind of enemy is getting close to that community. And then you can let everyone knows, and you can be ready before your enemy achieves the area that you are living. You just need to thinking, if a tribe or if a community is living there, it's because we have food in that region. If you have food in the ancient times, maybe this could be one of the reasons for fighting between communities. So this is just what people understand, because we don't see people producing pratic horizons anymore. So according to archaeological studies, they indicate these types or these sources of pratic horizons. Could be connected, directly connected to cultural heritage, or could be connected to other kind of activities. Okay?
Okay, thank you, sir. That
Welcome.
means the pratic horizon took a long period of time before it formed. And from the first picture you showed, I see like the horizon is created or is formed by cryotubation. That is what makes me answer how to ask a question. From the first picture, I mean. Are you getting me right, sir? From the first picture you showed, I can see that the horizon is formed by cryotization. And you said that it took a long period of time before it formed. That?
Mm-hmm.
Are you getting me, sir? Hello,
No,
sir.
no. Can you repeat? I didn't get it.
Yes, what I mean, from the first picture you showed, I see the horizon is formed by cryotization.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what make me confused. And you said it takes a long period of time to form, maybe by adding some material.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want to make it clear. That's what I want to explain.
Yeah. It's just because you need to think about cultivation along some centuries. Like, think that one community is cultivating that soil and adding material and mixing organic material in one area along 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 centuries. They still in the same area adding material. Okay, so, or let's say like a cemetery, an area that they buried their family, and they are doing there and they are burning the materials in the same place for some centuries. So this horizon, yes, takes time to be produced. Is something that you need a lot of material, mixing of material, and some burning in some cases, but this takes time. This is something that you need to consider. People living in that same exactly point for some centuries. Okay.
Okay, I get it, sir. I get it. Okay, is that
Great.
there is no difference? There is no difference. Maybe if it takes a long period of time or it is not. The main
Yeah.
point is that people add something on the surface layer of the soil before the phreatic horizon is formed.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
Great. So,
I
some
get
point
it. I
about
get
this that, oh, great. So
I get
something
it. I
that's
get
quite, okay. Something that's
I
quite
get
interesting on your point is that some people, they try to reproduce the phreatic horizon. Let's think that this phreatic horizon, imagine how much organic carbon can you storage on it? Or think about how can I improve the natural fertility of an area, because the organic carbon, the calcium, magnesium, it's quite high in this region. So a lot of people, a lot of scientists, especially, they try to reproduce the phreatic horizon, but until now, so far, no one could reproduce, no one could create the phreatic horizons again. So we don't have phreatic horizons being produced today, as I said, none by indigenous people, none by scientific people, because we don't know how they really produce it then. It's quite interesting. A lot of people try to reproduce. I don't know if you already heard about biochar. And the biochar was a topic that, I don't know, in the last 10 or 20 years is like a hot topic. A lot of people really pays attention to biochar. And the biochar, let's say, that was born by the topic studying Amazon dark earths, because they start to see biochar there and they try, okay, let's try to reproduce the phreatic horizon, because then we can stock a lot of carbon, we can produce some horizons that has a very high natural fertility, so we can produce more food, we can decrease the problem of fertility. We also can decrease the problem of trash. Where should we produce or add our trash? We can just mix with the soil, burn it, and try to produce the phreatic horizon. But we still don't know. A lot of different countries, a lot of different researchers, a lot of different people try to reproduce the phreatic horizons, and until now, we could not find the recipe for them, let's say in this way. But of course, maybe we have more than one recipe, but we still don't have any because we don't find a way to produce something with this. Maybe we need time. Maybe we need more time, like doing the same activity, like burning and adding material for, as I said, 1 century. And maybe after that, we can produce something similar, but we don't have 100 of years. You and I, we don't have 100 of years to wait for see this. So we are trying to put the thing faster, but until now, we could not find a way to produce or to reproduce the Pratic horizons, okay? But this is quite interesting because a lot of people really want to reproduce because of the carbon storage, because of the natural fertility, and because of the residues or trash issue that we also have on the planet. So produce or reproduce, find a recipe to produce Pratic horizons could solve a lot of different problems at the same time. Another horizon that's also produced by humans, the Terek horizon, okay? This horizon could be found on South America also, but also in Europe. It's quite common in some regions with steepy slope, okay? So in steepy slope, people, they try to produce some terraces, as you can see on this photo. Okay, so we have a terrace here, another level of terrace, a higher terrace, and then a higher terrace. And on each terrace, people, they cultivate. Okay, so in this case, we have olive in each of these terraces and each of these levels. And even we have some stairs that can help you to find and achieve each of these levels. So because of the very strong relief or steepy slope, you just create some terraces trying to get the agriculture easier, okay, or at least easier to the farmer, okay. This is quite ancient too. In this photo, for example, for this specific photo, these terraces, they have more than 500 years. Yes, but even in South America, we have more than 2,000 of years. And in other regions, you can produce also terraces and produce what we call the Terek horizon. This topic we know how to reproduce a Terek horizon. It's not a problem, okay? We can add organic carbon, we can add calcium carbonate, or we can add any other kind of material to create terraces, to create a new surface level, okay, and some steps, let's say, on this way. They present a high base saturation and a high pH because they are more commonly found on areas with limestones, okay, but they can be found connected to other areas too. So this is one example of a Terek horizon. You can see here this layer of rock has like this inclined surface. So this was the past or the ancient surface of the soil that's buried by this zone, okay? All of this material was added by humans to create a terrace, to create a new surface, okay? So a new level of the surface that's quite flat. And because of this, it's easier to do any kind of pasture or especially agriculture. So the addition of material from somewhere just create a new level, and this level now can be used for agriculture, okay? So a Terek horizon is a surface horizon that register content of organic carbon that's less than 20% of organic carbon. Again, shows some evidence of addition of material that it's different from the environmental surrounding, okay, and contains, if any, 10% of artifacts. So you can add any kind of material, for example, some porchets, some ceramic, no problem. Anything can be used to produce this new level. The organic carbon content should be equal or higher than 0.6. It should register a base saturation that's equal or higher than 50%, 50. Should register any evidence that the land surface has been raised. As I said, you could see in this photo, the surface was here, but everything was added. Okay, everything was added here. Okay, this photo was taken in one of these levels. Okay, we just dig in one of this level. We remove all of these rocks and dig this soil here, so we can see that this flat surface was created by humans. Okay, and then we can see this rocks showing the ancient surface. Okay, and the minimum thickness of a thermic horizon is 20 centimeters. Okay, so all the diagnostic horizons, they have 20 centimeters as the minimum thickness, except the anthracic horizon. Okay. Okay, guys, so we saw all the diagnostic horizons that are connected to human action, that are connected to human influence. Okay, all of them, and we have a lot of them. And again, you don't need to worry about memorize all the options, because in the field, when you are describing the soil, you must consult your WRB brochure. You need consult the material, okay? So it's not a problem that you don't memorize all the diagnostic criteria and requirements for all the diagnostic horizons, because you can check them. But something that's quite good, at least remember the definition of them, or at least what could distinguish one from the other, okay? So this, for me, at least for me, is the most important thing that you must do, okay? And on the next class, what we must do, on the next class, we will continue to diagnostic horizons. Now we will see the organic and mineral diagnostic horizons, and also those diagnostic horizons that are only organic. And I think that we can start with those diagnostic horizons that express accumulation of matter. After then, we start the others. So I think that in the next 2 or 3 classes, we will pay attention for diagnostic horizons in WRB. And then we start the soil classification according to WRB. Okay? Is everything okay? Oh, yes, please, Najee, open your microphone.
All right. Thank you so much,
I can hear
Prof.
you. Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much, Prof, for the wonderful presentation. The first diagnostic horizon you talk about, I would like to know what is the effect of climate on the first diagnostic horizon in terms of oxidation of iron, manganese that you talk about at the surface. How is the climate affect the formation of that surface?
Oh, good question. Good question. Okay. These horizons and these features, they could be found basically everywhere. Everywhere. I already found them in very cold regions like in Arctic or in Russia. I already saw them in dry lands in Brazil. I already saw them in tropical, wet and tropical regions, so very close to the equator. So basically you can find them everywhere, no problem. Everywhere that humans touch it, they could change this, okay? Because these features, they can be formed very, very quickly. Like just some weeks it's enough time to form these reductomorphic and oxymorphic features. Both can be produced very, very easily, okay? They just need some hours in some cases. Manganese, they just need some hours, and like 2 or 4 hours is enough. And for iron, you just need like 2 or 3 days to form an oxymorphic feature or a reductive feature. Okay, especially if you have high content of organic carbon. So I don't think that the climate conditions are the most important case in this area. I think that maybe the most important condition is the water table level, because to create these oxymorphic features, you need to consider that the water table level should be close to that place, or at least some human action reduce the water penetration through the soil profile, as we saw in the case of the YGRIC horizon. Okay, so we have I think that the relief is much more important than the climate conditions for this oxymorphic features. Okay.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Any other doubt?
No. Just to know if there's a way we can the assignments we did before, whether there's any way we can, look at it to know whether we understood properly what we're doing. Because some of those classifications were a bit tacky.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
we need some kind of what I say. I don't know whether you make some comments on them to know, so that we can really appreciate whether we're on track.
Yeah, definitely. I will do that. Okay. I didn't have time enough to correct it or at least check your assignments yet, because I'm working in the admission process here in my university, and this takes time. I'm sorry, but I will try to do this week and at least make some comments, personal comments to each one. Okay, so I reply by mail according to your answers and check, okay, if you still have doubt with this, or if you don't understand the classification in this specific exercise, so I can provide explanation why this is the right answer or why this is not correct answer. Okay, I will try to do that. Don't worry, don't worry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
Welcome,
much. And
welcome.
lastly, the field trip, any updates?
Yeah. I discussed with the people, and we are planning to schedule on November, the next month, because the university needs some time to schedule it. Maybe close to 15 or 16. Okay, November. I'm just waiting their answer yet. They didn't reply me about the field trip. As soon as I receive the information, I will let you know. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. My plan is that we stay in the field for 1 or 2 days, probably 2 days, so we can go and just describe the soil in the field and classify the soil in the field, and then we return. Okay?
Okay, I'll be okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Any other question? No questions. So, guys, thank you very much. I will share this recording in this afternoon, and I also will share the slides of the classes, because I know that they help you a lot. And well, if you have any other doubt, just let me know. Okay? So see you. Bye. Have a great week.
Ciao.
Bye. Have a nice week.
Have a nice week.